All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. All right, look, we all know what happened last night. Republicans got crushed, and they're making excuses because that's what you do when you lose. But it is the job of an analyst, and if you actually do care about Democrats taking the House in a bad way, at least the House, then you should not be burying your head in the sand. And you should learn how to separate spin from politicians, from legitimate analysis, from people who do this for a living. And the fact of the matter is, Republicans have two major problems that stem from so many of the things that we have talked about. One is very simple. And Republicans have the numbers. I mean, I think we demonstrated this in 24, right? This idea that that all these people crying about rigged elections, they don't know the numbers. They don't have vendor agreements and access to voter files 24/7 like we do over here and others do. And all through, the year 23, 24, we opened up the voter files and showed you the consumer databases, the voter databases, the DMV databases, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to show you that there were actually plenty of Republican votes to overwhelm or to make it too big to rig in the end, which is what Donald Trump used to say. And they did. All right. They're not getting people out the way they got them out in 24. That was never going to happen. But their job from the very beginning of this thing was to look at the result of the 24 election and realize that this was not an affirmation of the Republican Party. In some cases, you could even make a strong argument that this was not an affirmation of Donald Trump. They were running against a party that the American public realized had lied to them about the president being senile, about COVID, about Russiagate, about so much. And they felt like their presidency was stolen from them, and they wanted their presidency back, which came with a bustling, booming economy, all of the bells and whistles of the first Trump administration that was sidelined by all of this nonsense. When Trump was elected in 16, people wanted change, but they didn't realize what real change looked like. So when the boat started rocking, they got seasick and they wanted to pull over in the docks and get the hell off the boat. All right, that's what happened. Joe Biden was supposed to be a decency candidate. He was supposed to be a return to normal candidate. And the turmoil was so bad. The lawfare was so scary, all of it put together, that Donald Trump ended up being the return to normal candidate and give me back my economy. And Republicans underperformed everywhere, in case nobody was paying attention. And it seems a lot of people were not paying attention. Donald Trump won in 2024. Republicans didn't do that well, especially not for an election cycle where your candidate runs the table on not only battleground states, but in some cases even considered battleground adjacent states, and coming very close to flipping those that have previously been thought to have been out of range for Republicans, like New Hampshire, for instance. But they didn't do that. Instead of deciding how are we going to best convince the public that we are like Donald Trump and we're going to support his agenda up and down and have this makeover, create, this new brand, complete the realignment. Instead of doing that, they managed to drag Donald Trump down with them. So the answer to the question right off the bat on today's show is really not that simple, is it? I mean, again, yesterday, for those who watched the Locals clip, I praised Susie Wiles. She asked, she listened. Donald Trump cannot hide in the White House all the time or go out on foreign trips. He has to go out with the people. He's got to go out with the people. He's too isolated. He's too much in a bubble. And people are never going to vote for these loser Republicans down ballot. They're just not. Republicans have done nothing since the shutdown but pass anti-Semitism legislation. Like, they're a joke. Charlie Kirk's murdered. They take 35 days off. They promised everybody accountability and justice, but everybody's getting off left and right because the jurisdictions that they're prosecuting them are deeply corrupted and deeply fraud. Are they going to remove any magistrates and judges? Nope. The auto pen's down. All the executive orders signed by the auto pen are null and void. Why isn't Anthony Fauci in handcuffs? So, like, over and over and over again, we've seen this thing. We can go through the timeline of how Donald Trump lost his support and when he lost it. So the answer to the question really isn't, can Trump do this all on his own? The answer is, what does Trump have to do first to even be able to get to that point where he would have that kind of an impact? We already did see him make a dramatic impact in a race, which was a high-profile race. Of course, we're talking about Tennessee 7. They realized, oopsie, too late, that Epstein actually did hurt really badly, and it was depressing the shit out of Republican turnout. And Trump was successful in being able to redirect for a moment, and it wasn't all. I mean, clearly you can see you win a race by 9 points in a 22-point Republican district. It's not a great performance. A win is a win, don't get me wrong, but it's not a great performance when Mark Green himself won it by 21 points in 22 without Trump on the ballot, which wasn't even that great of a Republican year, right? I won the House popular vote and underperformed pretty much everywhere else. Democrats were very good at micro-targeting where they needed to perform. That's why. We could go through this all, but he showed that he at least can pull back some, because that race, when Emerson polled that race, the private polling also showed that it was basically a 2-point race. And depending on turnout, it could go either direction. Trump announces the moratorium on third world immigration, and Republican enthusiasm roars back for a bit, which it does seem to be holding a little bit. I don't know. We're going to actually we should find out today whether or not that's true, because today it looks like it's rocky a little bit again. We'll see. And we could take a look at it. I'll show it to you live as the interviews are being conducted. But in any case, he was able to salvage that seat at least. However, that's still an 11-point swing. In Georgia yesterday, Republicans lost a safe Republican seat. Across the board again, 13-point swings. Most of the targeted districts can't afford a 13-point swing. Hell, some of the Senate seats that Republicans previously thought were either safe or likely, they can't take a 13-point swing. Or at least an average one, because some will be bigger, some will be less. Republicans will vote in better numbers in a midterm rather than just an off cycle. So one special election doesn't necessarily mean much. However, the entire off cycle and special election season does. And of all the Republican held seats that have been up this past year for an election, Republican held, Democrats have flipped more than 20% of them. That's a big stat. That is, when we look at the history of midterms and specials leading up to midterms, that is much more on the end of what we saw before election seasons like 2010. That is much closer to what we saw during election seasons like 2006. It just is. That's a fact. So for everybody who's got this like cute little thing that they want to do and cherry pick data, here's some data for you. In this century, every single midterm cycle, the in-party power has lost an average of 5 points off the margin in an incumbent midterm from November of the year before to the November of the midterms. What does that mean? If Republicans were up by 2 last month, it would mean historically, if average was average, they would lose the House vote by about 3 points. If Democrats were up by about 2 in November of this year, then it would mean they would win the House vote by about 7 points. That's the reality that Republicans are facing. It didn't have to be this way, but here it is nonetheless. And yesterday, again, I give the White House credit and I give Susie credit. She understands they really have no choice now. Donald Trump will have to go out and he will have to try to win every competitive Senate race and key House races, he'll have to do it. There's no other alternative. Republicans cannot do this on their own. They're not up to it. I don't know what they're going to do when Donald Trump is gone, but the answer of whether or not after the 24 elections, Republicans understood what their primary task at hand should have been, the answer to whether or not they did has been asked and answered, folks. No, they did not. They carried on with business as usual, and they hurt Donald Trump in the process. And frankly, you can't really blame Republicans for everything Donald Trump does, can you? Donald Trump is the man. He is the president. He could have done whatever the flying he wanted to. He chose to do certain things the way he did them. And now he's got to make amends for it with the voters he has pissed off. All right. Last night he goes out and he does his first rally too, which we have clips of. And I just want to point out, and I'll just be honest with you, my advice was that you have to take Obama's tactic. You have to use what Obama did when he first got in office against George W. Bush. It's all Bush's fault. It was true. Was it not true? Of course it was true. George Bush focused on the war. Everybody knew that there was a potential housing bubble that was about to pop. Everyone knew the subprimes were dangerous, at least by that term. Hank Paulson went down to Capitol Hill not once but twice to talk to Barney Frank and Chris Dodd about reforming it before it blew up. He didn't have the political capital to spend on it because he spent it all on a stupid war, so he abandoned it. So yeah, it's his fault. And Barack Obama said, listen, we're making great progress, but there's more progress to be done. As time went on, and after he won re-election, he started to get frustrated. And he would abandon that strategy. And he would start to say things like, you know what? You just don't feel it. And that's your fault, man. Learn the code. We got things from the left like that. Learn the code. You don't need a car that big. Gas prices are high. I get it. You know, we've done a lot of work on it. It's not all my fault. We've done some great work on it. But the fact of the matter is, you don't really need a Suburban, do you? You don't need an SUV. Go buy like a freaking Prius or something. That was the message after the second half of the Obama administration. I'll play you the best moment of Trump's rally. And then there are some where I know everybody's jumping for joy, like, yeah, that was great. You're a partisan. To the independents that voted nearly 20 points against Republicans in Miami yesterday, that shit ain't funny. It's not going to fly. It's just not. Here is the best part of Trump's rally. And then we'll go from the rest of it's going to be all downhill from here. I just hate to tell you, but it's just true.
Have any individuals from Somalia in the group? Please raise your hand. That's for Minnesota, you know. That's called the Great Big Minnesota Scam with one of the dumbest governors ever in history. I love this Ilan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, does nothing but bitch. She's always complaining. She comes from a country where, I mean, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? They have no military. They have no nothing. They have no parliament. They don't know what the hell the word parliament means. They have nothing. They have no police. They police themselves. They kill each other all the time. I love it. She comes to our country, and she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother. Can you imagine if Donald Trump married his sister? Beautiful. She's a beautiful person. If I married my sister to get my citizenship, do you think I'd last for about 2 hours, or would it be something less than that? She married her brother to get in. Therefore, she's here illegally. She should get the hell out. Throw her the hell out. She does nothing but complain.
Whoopsie, whoopsie. All right. That's text. Did I really just go off and off and off, on and on and on about this? Are you kidding me? All right. So that's textbook Donald Trump. And that's the best part of the rally. I know I unbelievably did that. I know, my bad. What I was basically saying, and a recap real fast, Autontius. Let me give you the recap as fast as I can give you to what you just missed because I was muted. Okay. Which is that Donald Trump swooped in, helped a little bit in Tennessee 7, but we could see that it was still an underperformance. All right. So the answer to the question of whether Donald Trump can get it together, turn this thing around and turn out Republican voters is really predicated on whether or not he can fix what he has also done with the electorate, right? There's people that are mad out there. So it's not the silver bullet that maybe it once was. He needs to do something to make it right. He needs to make an argument. Barack Obama, my advice was to take Barack Obama's argument when you go out on the rallies, take Obama's argument and blame Bush. Do the same thing Obama did, which is what Obama did during the first part of his presidency. He blamed George Bush, and it was true. And that's what made it so powerful. But he never gave in to this idea of like, I don't understand your feelings, right? He never mocked them, not in the first administration. By the time we got to the second, the tone changed, the strategy changed. But he always had this, I feel your pain kind of mentality. It was all the other guy's fault. And we've made a lot of progress, but we got a long way to go. That was my advice for how you deal with the rallies, which, by the way, I mean, you can control quite a bit, and you can make them look as good as you can and make them look as good as possible. But there will still be some awkward moments when you're in the position like Donald Trump is in. And I'll show you one in a second. But you have to maintain that you understand that there's still more work to do, because it will still be an effective argument because it's also Joe Biden's fault. And he does get into it. I'm going to bring this up in a sec, but he steps on. I'll play the clip in a second, but he steps on it. And there's like basically no room for error here because the Republican Party had a goal, which we talked about ad nauseum. After 24, they had a goal. And the question of whether or not they understood that goal and they were going to be able to make it has been asked and answered. And the answer is no. They didn't understand their primary objective and they didn't meet their goal. And for those who it needs repeating, Donald Trump won the 24 election. Republicans did not. Republicans underperformed Trump even with him on the ballot, because this wasn't an election that was an affirmation of the Republican Party, quite the opposite. And even in Trump's case at the top of the ticket, you can make a strong case it wasn't even an affirmation of Donald Trump. It was a rejection of a party who went crazy and unleashed lawfare against a former president who was removed from office by a huge lie, which the country became known, had come to know that they were lied to. This man is senile. COVID was bullshit. All of this was a hoax. The Russia hoax was a hoax. And then you lay out this like crazy case to put the guy in jail, and you scared the shit out of everybody. It was just very simple. I want the guy back who had the great economy that you lied to, and we don't have him anymore. You lied about, and we don't have him anymore because of all those lies. And now we know they're lies, so you have no chance to win. Doesn't matter if you push out Joe Biden and put in Kamala Harris or put in Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter. You are going to lose. And in an election where a presidential ticket winds up sweeping every single one of the battleground and battleground adjacent states, they still underperformed. Their main objective was to convince those voters that Donald Trump brought into his coalition that they were going to rebrand, that they were going to make this realignment real, that it wasn't just this 10-year grift almost now, that they're pretending to put America first. All they needed to do was fake it for 9 months, and they couldn't even do that. We could go through step by step how Donald Trump and the Republican coalition fractured. what started it, what element of the coalition fractured off at those times. We could go through it, and we should, and we have to. But let me just show you something real quick. As I'm listening to that clip, which is why I was still muted the whole damn time, I'm over there looking at the responses. And I did say this, by the way, that which you didn't hear. Tennessee 7, Trump has demonstrated that he could at least do this on a limited basis. He was able to kind of, here's the shiny ball. Look at the shiny ball. The moratorium on immigration shot Republican enthusiasm through the roof. They parachuted in the last minute, and he was able to, 9 points isn't underperformance, but he was able to at least get that race out of what it was in, which was the margin of error. When Emerson polled that race, private polling also showed what Emerson showed. Emerson did nothing wrong. What happened is that moratorium boosted Republican turnout a little bit and managed to separate the margin some. But it was a closer race. It does appear, and that's what I was looking at, it does appear, because I've been wondering, will Republican enthusiasm and certainty to vote hold at the levels they shot up with during the Tennessee election? And it does appear today, because it was holding, it does appear today that it began to crack a little bit. And we'll see if that remains the case. But I'm looking I'm looking at an extremely friendly sample to Donald Trump as of today. 300 and something interviews. It's not much. I'll show them to you right now. And then we're going to go back and watch some more clips, because I'm going to point out the errors, the flaws. That is not the case people suggested to make. Some things, it's Trump, Trump is Trump. He can't help himself with. But still, when you're in this situation, it's best to polish the message the best you can. It really is. But anyway, let me put this up on the screen so you guys can see it. All right. There's the generic ballot with the first 312 interviews. What's interesting here is that Republicans are getting their asses absolutely handed to them. Democrats are even winning the decided vote, the undecided vote. So when we lean people, half refuse to lean. They're picking third party. It's BS. Eventually, we'll start screening them for vote history and stuff out. But you'll see a bigger third party for right now. But Democrats are actually winning the lean. They're already they're taking initially a 6-point lead. Republicans are at a pathetic 37%. Would it surprise you to learn that that's the primary thing? Would it surprise you to learn that Donald Trump's vote share is about right in this sample, and that his approval is around 49% in this sample? Now, don't quote and say, don't misquote me and go to X and say, oh, big data polls got Trump at 49. No, we don't. This is 312 out of a 3,000 interview poll. And it will move before I'm even done finishing the sentence. But I'm trying to show you a point where it's a sample where Trump is actually performing fairly well in. And I don't know, I haven't looked at age or anything, so I'm sure there's a reason for that, because I could see JD, it's probably older, because I could see JD is less than where he is overall. And Kamala's higher. Yeah, I would venture to guess that that's what's going on here. But in any event, yet Republicans can't put together more than 37% on the generic ballot. They are running 13 points behind Donald Trump. And I find this fascinating, because that is exactly the underperformance average in the 2025 off-cycle season. Now, we'll come back and we'll revisit this a little bit. I want to talk more about something that we spoke about with locals yesterday, which is, when the hell did Republicans become the party of disclosure? But they are. It's crazy. Republicans are basically saying, I'm seeing more stuff in the skies. So-called backward Christians. That's how the left views them. Us. I'm a Christian. The left views this as backward and like, ignorant, not progressive, not scientific, right? Meanwhile, it would appear that the right believes, has a higher likelihood or greater likelihood of saying that they believe that extraterrestrial life exists and on outside of Earth, off of Earth. Well, I'll show you the wording of the question in a bit. They also say that they believe the government knows more than they are letting on. They also say they see more things in the sky than Democrats do. So much for the backward Republican who can't take disclosure. I mean, that's been like, I'm not kidding. Look, it's like this issue is a bipartisan issue on the Hill, which is crazy. It is. But I have heard more than one comment from Democrats saying like, well, like if there was ever disclosure, let's be real, it would be Republicans who would be like the problem. They would be the ones who would have like an issue with it because it would challenge their worldview. Well, it certainly doesn't look like that. But in any event, let's just remove this for a second. I'm just going to show you. I think this one is, I have a larger version of this. Yeah, there it is. Trump begins to mix second-term Obama posture. He begins to mix that into his rally speech when it really needed to be all first-term Obama kind of posture. All right, hear me out.
We need, the one thing you need steel. You know, you can give up certain products. You can give up pencils.
This is
It's under the China policy. You know, every child can get 37 pencils. They only need one or two. You know, they don't need that many. But you always need steel. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice, but you don't need $37. So we're doing things right. We're right.
Okay, wait. Let's think this is the second part of that. Yeah. No, that's not it. It's this one.
Look at that. Our prices are coming down. Their prices, it's a hoax. They're just, remember they said the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember that? Billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars.
That's good.
The inflation, and after they got it approved, because we had a few Republicans that went along with that whole
You're backing one, sir. You're backing one, sir. His name is Lindsey Graham. Okay? You're backing one, sir. All right. So he does good, and then he falls back he regresses back into it's a hoax thing. You can call the Inflation Reduction Act a hoax, but you cannot call people's economic hardship a hoax. There's a difference. And you may have saw after the rally last night, Democrats cutting up parts of the video where he's saying you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need this, you don't need that. It doesn't matter if you think you knew what he meant. It doesn't matter if you think, oh, that's just Donald Trump. It doesn't matter. It only matters what the people you need to win over think. And Democrats cut up those videos, and guess what? The story was Trump's economic messages go without. We've heard that before, haven't we? That's second-term Obama. That was Hillary's campaign. Oh, you don't need, look, gas is high. That's true. But you know what? If you didn't drive an SUV, your gas bill wouldn't be that high. You remember that? 2% is the new normal, guys. You don't really need any more than that. That is not a winning message. That is a disaster waiting to happen. So there was some good mixed in there. There was a lot of good. There's a lot of good in that. And he needed to get out. So that's absolutely a good thing. But this message is going to have to be refined if they think they're going to turn this thing around. Because I'm telling you, you can see his approval pop. I did notice that Rasmussen's overnight approval pop too. But people who are arguing this, like that's a good thing and that's all they need, just fundamentally misunderstand the coalition. You don't understand the coalition. And oh, by the way, the economy was rip-roaring good in November of 2018. to. Because the administration's argument and the shills that are going to echo it because they've been told to, is that they expect the economy, they expect great things from the economy next year. And by the way, I have always believed in his vision with tariffs and everything. You know, I was actually a believer in more than this. I would have preferred to see controlled detonations of this entire system, one after the other, one right after the other. We didn't get that, but we did get an overhaul with tariffs. They're not going to amount to a substantial number where we're going to be able to abolish the income tax and still meet our obligations. That is bogus, and that is math that don't math. But it is great to finally see a trade imbalance narrowed or even restored to a balance at some point. I am not a believer in globalist economic policy. So I think I understood his vision that if you break a couple of things, that's good, because you have to break the system in order to bring back the kind of economy that we're trying to rebuild. You have to. But I would point out that's not good enough. Even if all of those things happen, it's not good enough, and you can see it right there. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is Republicans failed to brand themselves in alignment with Donald Trump. So whatever benefit Donald Trump gets does not necessarily trickle down to them. It won't trickle down. I'm telling you right now, it won't trickle down to them. It will not be good enough. And secondly, Trump himself has been weakened because he lost a piece of his coalition. So he's going to have to make an argument that's about him. Democrats, I saw somebody had said, I think it was in Locals, that Democrats may have gifted Republicans with these articles of impeachment against RFK. Maybe. In 2018, only the Republican Party understood that, like partisans, the base, understood that if Democrats take over the House, they will impeach Donald Trump. Well, Democrats have a different plan this time. It's a smarter plan. Their plan is to impeach people around him first that are actually solid for him. And then once he loses that coat of armor, they go after him. They'll start with people like RFK. Kirstie Noem made it so effing easy. If I was a lawmaker, I'd vote to impeach her. The case against her is rock solid. You cannot give people, your consultants, contracts without going through the bidding process as a consolation prize for apparently banging their husband. Can't do it. Allegedly. And there'll be others. Pete Hegseth will be, of course, a major target. And then once he has sufficiently been softened up, they will go after him in the hopes that Republicans will defect this time because of the difference in the relationship between the White House and Capitol Hill Republicans. I got to tell you, it's a good plan. He's going to have to tell the country that's the plan. And he's also going to have to tell them, look, I understand I did not do everything you wanted me to do. But guess what? If we outperform in the midterms and we will get more political capital. If I get more political capital, we can do more. It's a complicated pitch, but he's going to have to make it simple, succinct, all the while not dismissing people's economic pain and hardship. And anytime he gets frustrated, telling people he doesn't need their support anymore. Because that's how about 4%, I mean, we've measured this. About 4% right off the rip came off of Trump's coalition over the Epstein shit. A lot of these young voters, if I could just be perfectly blunt, a lot of these young voters saw that, as we have said over and over again, that was an issue of accountability. And it was a proxy issue of holding the rich accountable. I hate to say it, but Milo had that one part right on Tim Pool. The Epstein files was like this issue that was going to make it all, this global order, this elite order, it was going to make it all make sense. And chips were going to fall where they fall, and that's it. And when he handled it the way he did, he made these, especially young MAGA and young could-be MAGA who supported him, he made them feel or view him like every other politician, a fraud. I hate to be blunt, but there's really no time. We're out of time for niceties. We're out of time to tinker around the edges and me to like be careful about what words I use. And it's too late for that shit. That warning came 6 months ago. Nobody listened. So there it is. So for partisans who think, but you know what? The Democrats are just so much worse. That argument doesn't work. It won't work. That's Mitt Romney's argument, by the way. And it never works. That will not be enough to motivate these people out to the polls. And we know because really simple. We did a little something called Ask Them. There are some people, whether you agree with them or not, it's not up to us to agree with them. It's incumbent on us to understand them. And these people, from their point of view, don't really see that much of a difference. And we talked about this quite a bit yesterday on the Locals stream, didn't we, Locals? These people we all interviewed in the Trump or Bust coalition, right? They all, first of all, only cited Donald Trump as somebody they would even vote for. And one of the biggest reasons, aside from it's all rigged, which is why he had to stop saying that, and he did, and that was good. But one of the biggest reasons they cited for not voting was that they really didn't see a difference between these two parties. Republicans don't do what they say they're going to do when they get in. They're constant disappointment. There's not one single piece of legislation that permanently rolled back the Leviathan. Not one. Nothing that has been done since they took power and Trump took office has permanently rolled back anything that Joe Biden did. Anything, all the Rubicons that were crossed, no accountability. There has been zero accountability for left. It's like free reign. It's open season on right-wing personalities in this country. Nobody gives a shit. Antifa's not afraid. The fanatics aren't afraid. They're not afraid of anybody. Who they're supposed to be afraid of? Kash Patel? Give me a break. They're not. So nothing that has been done up to this point would survive a Democratic president coming in and just getting his pen or hers and saying, undo, 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 undo. And that's why the left has been winning for decades in this country. They go for gusto. They go for big, long-term change. And they understand that if you want that change to survive, it must be codified by the legislature. Republicans don't do that. They don't do it. So this is the situation they're in. I do expect him actually to get I mean, at the very least, a short-term bump. He's out now again. And I think that people want to see him out. I'm not going to play that cost-cutting thing. I mean, no, you know what? We could. Let's do it. I grabbed this off of Solomon's, who, by the way, I'll be on John Solomon later today to talk about this. You know, there was some great stuff in the rally last night, but then there was some, like, Democrats are just waiting for him to do what they know he's going to do. And then it steps on all of the positive stuff and all of the good things that he had said and done. So here's from Solomon's clip, which we'll discuss later on his show, which I believe I'm going on at like 6:05, something like that. I think I opened the show. I can actually check for you right now. Hold on. 6:10. All right, what time is 2:41? Because I want to get back and refresh this and look at the polling data. But I'll roll this and remove that one. I'll roll this because this is good. This is better.
He's a great governor, I would say, right? Really great. And a great person. He's doing a fantastic job. I said, I want you to head up energy, sir. I'd be good, but I'll tell you, there's one man out there in the whole world. There's one man out there who would be better than me. Who is it? A man named Chris Wright. Who the hell is Chris Wright? Give me a break. I never heard of the guy. Well, you never heard. He's the biggest there is. He's the smartest there is. The greatest oil man in the world. Chris Wright. I said, I got to see this guy.
Oil man.
And after about 2 minutes, I understood exactly what Doug was saying. So I said, okay, Doug, you'll go to Interior. You work with, because interestingly, Interior owns all the land that has the oil. And he has all the expertise that drills the oil. And I said, we'll do a friendly merger here. This is pretty good. And that's what we did. And we're right now drilling more oil than we've ever done ever before. Prices are way down. We just had 4 states. It was just reported that 4 states had $1.99 a gallon.
There you go. There you go. All right, so that was Solomon's. That was Solomon's. But look at all he has to get up to in order to get to the gas line. I know that's a rally setting and it's different, but that is good news, and that's the kind of stuff you should be touting 100%. But it's just exactly steps on it. It steps on it. You really don't need the rest of it. All right, let me take a little bit of a break, which is not really a break. I'm going to show you a video which I think you guys need to see. And it actually booted me off of the Charlie Kirk show earlier. So if you saw it, it needed to be. I mean, we knew about the clip, and it needed to be shown. That's why I wanted to show it here to you guys as well. And then when we come back, we'll look at some of the this is just crazy to me. And I wonder today, because we asked it again today, I don't know what has changed. Is it because the president's a Republican? Is that the answer to why? No, because we started asking this in April of 2018. So that's not it. It's very simple. I mean, I guess it's just is a changing. Maybe it's part of the realignment. There's a changing of the guard, where Democrats were always in on these kind of fringy like issues, and they're always the ones who were viewed, or at least they self-proclaim, to be more open-minded and progressive about things. But now they're not. They're like the party of the overeducated and credentialed, right? And they think they know better than everybody else, and they're certainly materialists. And they are certainly, I don't want to say, it's not shallow. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they're more atheist. Maybe they just don't believe in anything they don't see. Or maybe it's stigma. It's like their social circles now. This kind of thing is subjected to a stigma. I don't know. But how Republicans became the party that's open-minded towards the UAP phenomena is just like crazy to me. Maybe it's also leadership. Tim Burchett, Marco Rubio, some big Republican names involved in this. And by the way, he doesn't get very much credit for it. But Senator Ted Stevens, the late Senator Ted Stevens, worked hand in hand with Harry Reid to get the funding for ATIP. We only ever talk about Harry Reid because he was friends with Robert Bigelow, and the issue was a big deal to him. And for those of you who don't know that story, I'll tell it briefly. But Ted Stevens, who is dead, he died in a mysterious plane crash over the Alaskan wilderness. He gets no credit. So it's not like this is new or anything, but I don't know. Maybe you see Southern congressmen championing the issue, and it makes a difference. Of course, we know leadership voices make a difference. I don't know. It's crazy. Really crazy. It was a crazy phenomenon to me that this thing has flipped the way that it has, because I've been polling this question for years, and it has always been the case that Democrats are always the ones who say, yes, I believe in extraterrestrial intelligence. I've personally seen something, or someone I know sincerely believes that they have seen something. All these questions we ask, they're always the one who outnumber Republicans and parts of like the evangelical base years ago used to say, no, I don't believe in any of that stuff, or they're demons or something, which I don't mean to laugh at, but I'm serious. And now there has been a change in what an evangelical is in this country. That's why Barnes and I call them cultural evangelicals. It's why Ron DeSantis ran the worst campaign ever. He was running like he was running for Ted Cruz or something, who almost lost anyway in the 16 caucuses. It's not like he really won. Everyone knows about the dirty trick he pulled on Ben Carson, which gave him a couple extra points. Trump almost won it anyway. So this shift among evangelicals has been changing a lot longer than a lot longer than at the point we elevated it to discuss it. All right. But anyway, this is totally, for those who watched the Locals video yesterday, you also know that I finally and I've been tweeting stuff, but I finally opened my mouth about this crazy shit with Candace Owens. All right. And as I'm waiting to go on, because I think it's very tragic that all of this crazy talk sidelined the political violence debate in this country, of which we did a huge, this 3,000 plus response, and actually it's more than that now because of overtime. But it's a large sampled size survey trying to get at the heart of, we needed to learn more about why people do this stuff. Why is violence becoming acceptable? And it got completely sidelined by all these crazy crackpot conspiracies in a windows that are supposed to be, in lieu of investigation. And I mean, she's preying off of people's distrust in authorities. They earn that distrust, by the way. I have my own questions. And I have known for a while, as she turned Turning Point into the bad guy in this, and even insinuated that Charlie's wife, Erica, killed him or had a hand in killing him. I mean, if you're saying he's the Truman Show and Charlie was just this hapless, clueless guy wandering through life, which is a disgrace to his legacy because he was anything but. If you're insinuating he was part of the Truman Show, you're insinuating his wife was in on it. And I held my tongue because I know their posture publicly is not the totality of their actions privately. And I and they have absolutely had questions, among which is like, how do these people who clearly had beforehand knowledge of this event, what happened to them? Why hasn't anyone been interviewed? People who knew he was going to do it in his own chats, why aren't they arrested under a Good Samaritan law? Like everybody else in this country would have been arrested. If you know someone's going to commit a murder and you say nothing and then that murder gets committed, you're going to be charged as a principal under a Good Samaritan law. Every state has one. The federal government has them too. And yet they were not. So I get the distrust. Oh, and by the way, who the hell was he interacting with in these Discord messages, in these chats? Do they have anybody? Did they have ties to anyone? What became of Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel's little fight over Tulsi just trying to do her job, right? There's legitimate line of inquiry. And they themselves have their own. And I knew that, but you got to let them kind of just do their thing. And the entire time I'm thinking, this poor woman, at some point you have to confront it because it's not true. I mean, if the public doesn't. And after we play this, I will just say that, look, maybe we'll do this on Locals a little bit later. But guys, like last night, if you haven't yet caught on to the grift, then I don't know how I can help you. Like, first of all, you can't vet someone's 35-year jacket in less than 24 hours. And had she would have known the glaring glaring inaccurate statements that were made. And they literally accusing the U.S. military of having a role in Charlie's assassination now. This is insane. And two guys who I spoke with, you might know them. Actually, you do. I'm being facetious. They're at the Pentagon now. They can't say anything. They have to just let this play out. Absolutely outraged. Plus, also, the fact that if you are a veteran and you're sitting listening to it, you're like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. An E4 is not a lieutenant colonel. E stands for enlisted. An E4 is most commonly a specialist in the U.S. Army, or if you're most unlucky, you could get named a corporal and get the NCO duties without the pay upgrade, which you will get as an E5, the other rank that was mentioned, which is simply a sergeant. I haven't seen this many E4s and E5s. You don't see this many E4s and E5s in a room. Yes, you do. It's called basic training, you stupid idiot. And the 10th Mountain Division, which Sean Parnell served in, is Fort Drum, New York. It's just bullshit. It's all bullshit. Clearly being fed stuff. She doesn't know it. She's too dumb to realize she's an asset, not a journalist. She doesn't give a shit anyway, because this is all some carefully plotted show designed to go after you ladies, in case you haven't noticed. It's very clearly like, cliffhanger! And guys see it. Ladies, do not let her prove what she's hoping to prove, which is that you really are this easily manipulated. Don't do it. Anyway, Erica's on this tour, obviously promoting Charlie's book. I have a funny story about Charlie and the Sabbath, by the way. Laura loves the story. Laura's there, so she knows. Charlie was definitely big on the Sabbath. Even busted my balls because he observed the Sabbath on the traditional Sabbath day, of course. Me even busted my balls, like, why are you picking this up? I'm like, yeah. I'll do it. I'll test it out. All right. Like, I'll legitimately not work at all, which I never do. I always work every day. I'll legitimately not work at all. And it's like a half an hour later, and he calls and he's like, why'd you pick this up? I'm like, you got me. But anyway, she's out there. This woman who's still rather recently lost her husband. Yeah, I mean, she was Miss Arizona, but she's not like trained to run around and do all these media appearances. And she's all over the place, and she's doing a fantastic job, which is kind of incredible. You can get with it. I mean, some people just have it. But she was just like thrusted into this. As somebody who used to go to a lot of Turning Point events, they asked me to speak, we do straw polls. You're not going to like intermingle with Eric all that much unless you're in the inner circle. So she's not in front of cameras like crazy. Like, that's not her thing. She did do Charlie interviewed her herself, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's Charlie and people like me and others. We know what it's like to be in front of a camera. And it's all of a sudden you go, especially on like a live set, like The View or Fox, something like that, you suddenly realize, oh shit, this is like cable news, or this is network news. It's like millions of people watching. It's not a podcast anymore. And well, it used to be like that, but still, it's a big production. And if you're not used to it, it can easily intimidate you. She's just doing fantastic. Anyway, she goes on Outnumbered this afternoon with Harris Faulkner. And as you know, Milo, we went on Tim Pool and he started talking about Charlie's not buried. Where's his body? Which, to people who know, is just like so effed up. I'm just going to play the clip. Let me take my break, go get my water, and you listen to how Erica Kirk responded to Harris Faulkner bringing this and others up.
Erica Kirk sharing her journey with America and the world. We are grateful at Fox to have her here to shine a light on healing as we all miss and mourn the loss of her beloved Charlie Kirk. Not all of her journey has been without, well, hate, conspiracies, and oddly, speculation about where her husband is buried. Now, for the first time, Erica, who's with me now, addresses all of it from the perspective of a grieving widow, a mom, and a battle-tested American. Good to see you again today. Talk to me about this part of the conspiracies that are out there, this disturbing part that people are trying to guess where Charlie is.
Can I have one thing? Can I have one thing? Can my children have one thing? Everything was public. We will be building the most beautiful memorial for my husband at Turning Point USA, and it will be for the world to see, and it will be spectacular, and it will have basically museum style for our Charlie, for my Charlie. But can I have one thing? Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying? One thing. This is my husband. Yes, he was Charlie Kirk to the world, and I know so many people love my husband, and I am grateful for that. But this is my husband, and I want to be able to have one thing left that is sacred to our family, to my in-laws, to my babies, and to my parents. One thing.
What are they taking from you right now?
Nothing. But I will tell you what they are doing. It reminds me so much of chapter 6 in the book of Nehemiah. He is building a wall, and the townspeople are at the base of that hill saying, Nehemiah, calling him all these names, saying all these things, come on down. Every single time he had the same message 4 times in a row. I cannot come down. I am busy building. That is how I feel. I do not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that I am complacent. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that loved my husband and my husband loved them is somehow in on it. We are busy building. And you know what I thought? I thought these people are human. We are all grieving in our own way. And they are trying to find the answer to something that happened that was so evil. They are trying so hard. And I get that. We're doing the same. Anytime we hear a lead or anytime we hear anything, we send it to the authorities. Please dig into this. No rock will be unturned. I want justice for my husband, for myself, for my family, more than anyone else out there. So for me, you want to keep telling me to come down while we're building? I don't have time for that. But here's my breaking point on that. Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole. Whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
You know, I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is righteous anger because this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus. Yes, I believe in our judicial system. I do. We have a hell of a team working on this. Excuse my French. But this is not okay.
So you want to put these people back in the box where they've been creeping from?
I don't care what box you're in. But just know that your words are very powerful, and we are human. My team are not machines, and they're not robots. They are human. We have more death threats on our team and our side than I have ever seen. I have kidnapping threats. You name it, we have it. And my poor team is exhausted. And every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again? They watched my husband get murdered. I have no idea how I would have reacted if I was there that day. And thank the good Lord that I did not have to see that happen. But my team, they are rocked to the core. So why every single day do they have to be dragged through the mud, analyzed, hyper-analyzed?
You know, the conspiracies that are out there, all of the like, do you think that there is more of it now because you do shine your light? I mean, did people just expect you would just go away?
I don't know what they expected.
They pick on you because of your accessories. I mean, I've seen some of it.
Oh, yeah. No, at this point, it's what? The conspiracy collection. Get it before Christmas. Like, seriously, you will, if you want to find and pick me apart, go right ahead. I do not care. I don't.
All right, so there it is. I mean, look, she's never responded like that before. By the way, I'll just add this. I mean, you keep donating to that girl and you're just donating to the French couple because they're going to sue her ass into oblivion. And there's not a lawyer on planet Earth who thinks she's going to win. She is absolutely going to lose. And she's looking down the barrel of like, there are more coming. You can't just do what she's doing and there is a reckless disregard for the truth. And that is illegal terminology for a reason. I'm using it. And I'm not talking about just there. Like, look, what she said about Tim Pool's brother the other day, I would be shocked if Tim Pool did not sue her because she knows for a fact that what she said, what she insinuated is not true. You get sued for that shit. So better watch out who you give your money to because it's going to end up, unless you want to support the French couple. I mean, if you want to give them some more money, that's you. That's on you. Do you? Because that's where it's going. Guess hubby doesn't want to kick out. All right. So with that in mind, like, yeah. And I just will point out, I don't know if you caught that or not, but that's the first time I've heard anyone from Turning Point, let alone her, reveal that, which is that they're not just sitting back and saying, oh, that's it, blind trust. And they're not. You just don't know about it. And she revealed that there for the first time. That's her decision. That's up to her. But some of us already know that. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's a shame because, look, I don't personally think that people do things like this. Same thing with Trump's assassin or would be do things like this on their own. I don't understand why we're not seeing or hearing about the others being interviewed, at the very least interviewed. Like, I don't, but that's me. And I guess I have a different posture. I can take a different posture publicly on this. There is a very, as we talked about yesterday's video, there's a very, very real possibility that you can get this guy off by doing what Candace is doing. And it's absolutely real. She's creating multiple juror traps. And if one person gets on that jury resolute, even after reviewing all of the evidence and okay, so he was the one who pulled the trigger, but still, I feel like there are other parties who are getting away with it, even though I don't really know who those other parties are and I don't have any evidence to make that case. I'm going to vote not guilty as a protest because I don't think the real perpetrators were held to account. That, and you already have the juror trap of the fact that, and locals, you know this, I mean, it's Utah. Utah is not MAGA. Utah is not MAGA. It's the reddest non-MAGA state out there, guys. Mormons are not MAGA. Utah is the stronghold of the McMuffin wing of the Republican Party, the Romney wing of the Republican Party. This guy was, my friend was murdered by a dude who was into trans furries when Governor Cox, everyone knows, despite him, pretending to be this like devout Mormon, everyone knows about keep it on the down low. Nobody has to know. Everybody knows, Cox. Everybody knows. And so you're dealing with that potential juror pool. And if there is an element of MAGA in it, because of that area of Utah, number one, the jurisdiction will be prosecuted in is like not where you will find MAGA. Of course, you'll find them everywhere, but it is one of the most non-MAGA areas. Where you do find MAGA, you may have had these people infected with what Erica, I think, rightfully calls a mind virus, and they'll poison the jury pool even more. And you will end up with one of the biggest injustices, if not the biggest high-profile injustice in a very long time. All right. So, again, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about this shit, guys. A right way and a wrong way. All right. I noticed something as I was doing this, and I'll update it once more. I swear to God, Democrats are getting more fanatical every time we poll. Like every day, they're getting more fanatical. I'll refresh it right now, but so far, out of the interviews conducted today only, this is what Democratic identification looks like. This is like crazy. Can you guys see this? And I'll refresh it right now in front of your eyes. But 50. All right. So just so people who maybe don't know what they're looking at. Obviously, we first ask whether or not somebody identifies as a Republican, Democrat, Independents, whatever. If you identify as a Republican, we're going to ask you whether or not you identify as America First or traditional Republican. For some reason, America First has declined quite a bit this week. I don't know if this is going to keep up. But after, I don't know, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 total, whether or not they're qualified or not, we'll get into that. But it's a large number of interviews, and yet America First has declined below 50%. I don't know when the last time it was below 50%. That's something to keep an eye on. We do know these unsure, no opinions do align more with America First than traditional Republicans when you look at them responses on other questions. It could be anything from Trump approval to the right track, wrong track, anything, right? So we can profile them more, certainly more as America First, usually around 2 to 1, right? Or more, actually. But I don't know why. It's fallen below 50. It's been hanging below 50. This is only 200 interviews or so. But if I included all the other ones, you would see the same thing. But with Democrats, which I'm interested in here for right now, what the hell is going on? They just keep getting more and more and more radical. That's independent identification, by the way. Not good. Independents are like leaning hard to Democrats lately. This is not good. Well, not good for Republicans. But if you look at what we did with the question we ask as a follow-up for Democratic identification, more specifically, do you identify with socialism, democratic socialism, or traditional liberalism? Traditional liberals, 12.8%. Socialism's 11%. That's about 4 or 5 points higher than what we usually get. And democratic socialism's 57.3%. So if you were to add them all together, folks, you have more than a super majority or a socialist in the Democratic Party. Normally, we've been getting, when we first started asking this question, it was like 40%. And that was back in the 2020 Democratic primary. Although it wasn't completely apples to apples in how we worded it. Socialism identification, which was predominantly democratic socialism, was around 40%. Look at it now. This is crazy. And I'm going to look by generation in a second, although the sample size is not that large, so maybe it won't matter all that much. But they're not, I don't even know what to say. Like, that is an un-American ideology. And yet, a supermajority of one of the major two parties in this country identify with an un-American ideology. Let me refresh this, and we'll look at it right now, and then we'll go to the alien stuff. Pre-highs 4.5. Yeah, it's a little high. Graduates a little low. It'll iron out. All right, this looks like a few more interviews have been collected. Let me go back up, though. Has it changed at all? What's male, female? Got to get males. Got to get more males. Not really. 56%. I mean, 66%. Or no, I'm sorry, 65. So it came down a little bit, but not. Notice it didn't go to traditional liberals, which actually fell again a little. It went to unsure, no opinion. And I guarantee you, when we cross-tabulate the unsure, no opinion, they're going to end up being more with being more with socialism than they will be with traditional liberalism. There are no traditional liberals in the Democratic Party anymore. It's like the blue dog Democrats were gone after Obamacare, and now there's no traditional liberals. So, like, what is this party? What the hell is this party? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't really see how that reverses anytime soon. Democrats will just never be a party of like free market capitalism ever again. They can pay lip service and homage to it, but it's bullshit. It's 100% bullshit. They don't believe in things like free speech, like traditional liberals used to claim, privacy rights, Fourth Amendment protections. These were things that used to be touted by traditional liberals. They were the ones who did not like the expansion of the surveillance state after 9/11. They're gone now. They don't even exist. It's not even real. It's unbelievable. Really is. All right, let's go back to the today's UFO. We reviewed the last of it on locals yesterday. Oh, this is thinking about foreign affairs. How's that doing today? 52%. He's too focused on foreign affairs. Who are these people who say that he's like not focused enough on foreign affairs? Like, who are these people? I mean, they're in the gross minority. Some kind of joke, but like, we need to look at who these people are. I have suspicions. This is the word cloud for people that gave us their responses on what they think, blah, blah, blah. You can go and look and see some. This is not that much over here. Wow, that's got to be translated, which it will be at some point. Let's go down. Next page. Okay. America always gets the shaft when it comes to the two choices. Americans are struggling to stay above water. We want to provide more jobs and better pay, or bring the cost of living down. Americans continue to suffer and cannot afford to live in unvaccinated homes due to inflation. Yet the president is focused on other countries' issues instead of addressing America's issues. Americans are suffering and all they do is talk about Jews in Russia. This is so funny. Americans are hilarious. Americans are hilarious. They really are. Reich Führer Trump is a complete moron. Because Trump is so focused on border patrol that he's blind to a lot of other problems. That's funny because he seems to be doing a lot. I mean, it's like, if you're a Trump supporter, speak up, because he could use all the positive messaging he can get right now. All right. Have you personally ever witnessed anything you believe to be a UFO, know someone else who sincerely believes they have, or does neither apply to you? No, neither, is still a majority. However, yes, I've personally witnessed a UFO is now up to 24%, which is roughly what it was in the rest of the responses that we've been tracking. No, but I know someone who sincerely believes they witnessed a UFO, 23.8%. Just so you guys know, I can go down. This was what? April of 2021. Witnessed UFO was 18%, which was up from the survey prior in 18. So we're going to be up like almost a cool 6 points on that. And then in addition, though, no, but I know someone who is usually a little bit below 20 or so. That's about 24. So it's definitely becoming, the reason why I was interested in this is because they make the case that these sightings are getting more and more, even in the military. And I think that's interesting. I wanted to know if that is also the case with people. I missed one question here. Which comes closer to your view on UFO sightings? At least some can be attributed to extraterrestrial intelligence visiting Earth, or all can be explained by human activity on Earth or natural phenomena. 41% say at least some now can be attributed to extraterrestrial intelligence visiting Earth. That is up from the 30s. Yeah. So I mean, look, it's becoming more of a mainstream thing. That's that's where it comes from. Regardless of your views on UFO sightings, do you believe intelligent life form exists elsewhere in the universe? That appears a little bit low to me. No, that's about right. Past was 58. That's interesting. So yet belief isn't increasing. That's weird. That doesn't seem to make sense, but it is what it is. Take the data, you follow it where it goes. Do you believe the US government knows more about UFOs than it claims? And yes, 64%, which is up just a hair. But that's not all of it. I mean, we'll probably even be able to see probably more being conducted right now. We got any new ones? New ones? Come on. Yep. Wow. Almost another 100. All right. So 64. So that's going to come a few points higher than it has in the past. Witness 24, 23. That's still up there. That's still higher. As long as it stays at like the quarter range, roughly a little bit below, it'll be an increase, like a statistically significant increase from prior years. And that is one of the most interesting things for me. Also, let's see if today's sample is the same. Okay. We'll add a filter. We shall take partisanship. Interestingly enough, we will just isolate Republicans. Let's go back to the original question. At least some can be attributed. 46% among Republicans. 28%. Well, that's what it's coming down to. Republicans think they see things in the sky more. Let me see if that's still the case today. Yeah. This is, guys, I don't know. I am open to suggestions on why this is happening. Why do you guys think that Republicans are suddenly becoming the open-minded voter on things like UAPs and UFOs? You guys have any suggestions? I mean, we've been doing this survey since, it's almost 10 years now. Almost 10 years since we first did it. 8 years. And Democrats have always been the ones who say, I see more things. Location. Whoa! I actually really like that. More rural areas. They see more sky. Oh my God, guys, you're right. Ruth in action. You're right. More Republicans in rural environments. Oh my God. That's true. That's true. And libs believe things like there's a rational explanation for everything because now they got all the fancy degrees and credentials, right? Oh yeah. Location. You know what? Interesting. Where are you? Rural. What? It's not? Okay. Well, let's see. That may not be true. Hold on. It could be. People are notoriously bad at self-identifying their area type, And look at that. Suburban. Yes, I've heard. Are you telling me people see shit in urban areas? Get the hell out of here. You joking me. Well, first of all, why is there so okay. Unsure. At least some can be contributed. Oh, is this like not updating? Yeah, it is. Wow, it's not location. What the hell? But then again, that may not be true because as you guys said, it's like, I think that's probably true. People are very, very bad. I'll have to go and look at don't flip out or anything. I'll have to go look at the geolocation. I want to know by region. We'd have to group this I mean, I could. It would just take time for me to do it live, but we'd have to group this by like census division. And we do have geolocating data on people. Anytime you pick up the phone and take a poll, technically, if it's on your cell phone, they're going to know where you are. If you click on a link, if somebody sends you a link, almost assuredly, they'll be able to geolocate you. I don't know that a lot of pollsters don't do it. I don't know why. More data is more data, and that's good. But a lot of them don't do it. So I do, and I'm just telling you, because that's how I give you all those cool little locator pin maps, right? And if I don't have the geolocated data, you'll get their address, of course, but I try not to give like a pinpointed address. I mean, it's just personal identifiable information. I don't want to blow up anybody. All right, let's see what we got today. 654 so far. So it looks like it's slowed down a little bit. That's intentional, by the way. There's like certain times a day where you can reach different people easier. Oh my God, it's blasphemy. I know, against blasphemy against the laws of randomization. That's true. Thinking we don't know. That's a good point. We don't know where the UAP was spotted. So we don't. I mean, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. And right, because the Republicans trust nothing that the government tells them. That's another really good point. What is July 13th, 2024 is proof of this? What is it? What am I missing here? Let's see, Jonathan. Do you think the traditional liberal portion of the Democratic Party will bleed into the Republican Party over time? I think that, and that's a great question. And I think that honestly, the answer to that will partially depend on Republicans' behavior, right? Or they'll be orphaned. It's possible they'll be, or like some of them will just orphan out if they feel like they can't find a home in the Republican Party. But yeah, I mean, they're vaporizing. There's no traditional liberals. And I mean, what was it? 12%? And it's been going down. Like we've been watching it go down. Like live, real time. The Democratic Party is a radical party. I mean, that's it. You want to run an ad, boy? Run that. Holy shit. Think independents know that? They don't know that. And also, by the way, Thomas Massey is right. Stop subsidizing all of these European nations through NATO, allowing them to give the false impression that socialism works. You're paying for their shit. This is how dumb Republicans are. Stop funding a dinosaur balancing coalition meant to balance against the Warsaw Pact, which has been dissolved for decades. Get rid of it and stop allowing Europe to give their population 50-year retirements and all this other bullshit to make socialism look good. That's all you're doing. Take away the common defense, make them fend for themselves and defend themselves for once, and you'll see they'll stop being socialist real quick. It's just such a stupid thing that Republicans do. Republicans became the party of disclosure when we had all the lies of 2020 and 2024, Afghanistan, COVID, lawfare, J6, the border. I can keep going. Well, we're fucking over secrets. That's a good point, actually. And the government can't be trusted to figure it out. Spill it will figure it being collectively smart. Figure it out being collectively smarter than any government cabal. I do think that Americans could handle disclosure. I do think that. I do. I think it for a number of reasons. One, we'd have no choice. We'd have to. What are you going to do? No? Okay. It's not like the big mothership has come down and parked anywhere, although people have seen things, including myself, by the way. But it's not like it's being put, like there's no like alien creature walking in front of us right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, although Mark Mitchell and I were talking about the Nazca mummies. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean, sunlight's the best disinfectant. Let it rip. I mean, Donald Trump had, in his first administration, this is why, like, you knew he was lying with Tucker. You knew he was lying. Not that presidents are privy to this stuff, because they're not privy to everything. But you knew he was lying when Tucker asked that question. Now we know it. We know it to be true. He's asking Steve Mnuchin to do an economic study on the economic impact of disclosure. So, Steve, if I go to the microphone and I tell Americans we're not alone, we don't know what the fuck these things are, right? What happens to the economy? And then COVID hit. And then COVID hit. And Steve went to the guys in ATIP, where they were previously ATIP. They were the new thing. It was one, because obviously Luis Elizondo had retired, but Jim Bratton, if I remember correctly, that's his name. He was leading it, the new thing. And Steve Mnuchin went to him and asked him, what do you think? And he was like, I don't know, but I can debrief you on what I know if you want. And he did. And he told Steve Mnuchin, who reported and told President Trump everything. So, you know, I mean, this cute little thing they got going on, but that's a true story. You will never see the president deny that shit. I mean, he may say, hey, oh, you know, I don't know. I never heard anything. Sure. I mean, he doesn't know where the damn bodies are buried and stuff. Like, no, I don't think any president knows that. I think that this is part of our bureaucracy problem, Andrew, is that these guys, they don't feel like they have to tell any of these elected officials. They come and go. You know, you wouldn't have a political appointee oversee programs like that or other things for that matter. They would come and go. So these guys 2, 3, 4 layers down, 3, 4 layers down. You know, that's where the programs would be housed, and that's who would know. Yeah. Serious question. Well, I hope so, ideas. Would you consider adding a question to a national poll regarding the opinions on the word retard and retarded when used as a pejorative? I fear it turns off MAGA moms and dads. Honestly, I think the president calling someone retarded is going to turn off some older people. I do. I agree with that. I mean, yeah, I could think about doing that. I just don't know when we'd be able to do that next, though, ideas, because the next thing we're going to do is the Christmas bowl. So it's like, hey, do you decorate for Christmas? Do you celebrate Christmas? Do you believe in God? Also, do you like the word retard? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I do see where you're going with it. And I actually think like that's actually a really good idea. I know that's crazy and it's sensitive. And some of my colleagues will probably be like, the hell are you doing? I actually think it's a good idea. Tucker calls them diamonds. He does. Or at least, and actually we had this conversation on Locals yesterday. Did you miss it? But like, if you did, you should go back and watch it. I'm serious, because there are apparently there is this faction at the Pentagon who does think they're demons. And my like response to that was, why wouldn't you believe any of them are angels? Right? Like, why would you just believe they're demons? And some of the data, the reason why is because apparently some of the data suggests some people reporting spiritual-like experiences, including someone who's, by the way, there's one that's public live. He was a whistleblower, and he says he was on a crash recovery team. He said he had a spiritual-like experience. Well, none of them that I saw appeared to be negative exclusively. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, looks like I got me a hold on, guys. To wrap up the show, I got to get through the questions. Yeah, I got a focus group I got to do, and we've been doing a lot of focus groups, which is, it's good. They provide a unique perspective where I can more directly and more in depth, interview people, and I tell you what, it's getting harder not to be recognized, actually, which is weird. Never thought that day would come, but as you can imagine, there's quite a few liberals and quite a few right-wingers who can't stand me. So when they this will be your moderator today, this fucking guy. It's happened. Yep. Thank you for speaking out. Your voice gets people to listen. Ours don't most of the time. You'll never see an E4 and E5 in the same room together. Laugh out loud. This bitch is wild. Yeah, it's just like ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And it's like, at the very least, QO, like at the very least, do your damn due diligence. Do your damn due diligence. And this is the part, though, that pisses me off about like Cash and, what they're doing. Well, it's a state matter. Fucking that, Cash. You know damn well you were going through those social media interactions. Why don't you provide the public with an open, like a legitimate narrative and story to tell and give people answers so they don't feel like they have to run to somebody like Candace Owens, who does have a reckless abandonment and disregard for the truth. Like, I don't understand why they don't do that. They seem to think because they are part of Donald Trump's administration that, like Andrew said, suddenly Republicans are just going to trust them or something. No, they're not. People aren't suddenly going to trust, let alone people. Just because it's you? Do you really think your shit doesn't stink that much? That your appointment as the director is suddenly going to change how everybody feels? Come on, get out of here. That institution has destroyed its credibility year in and year out. They've been at it for decades. They killed those people on Ruby Ridge. They murdered those children at Waco. Come on with this shit. Robert Mueller's a fucking crook. The guy had 2 innocent people rotting in jail to cover up for his dirty FBI agents who are working for Whitey Bulger. So, blow me with this shit. So sick of this. It's an agency that was started by Napoleon Bonaparte's cousin, I believe it was, or nephew. The guy was a monarchist. It gets rooted up in a culture put together by a cross-dressing little tyrant who blackmailed every president he encountered in the 20th century. The image of this like good G men, above reproach, educated, is bullshit. That's a propaganda campaign that was put on by the cross-dressing little gremlin. You think you were just going to be appointed and suddenly we're going to throw their trust behind it again? Where's the reform to the FISA court? I will reform the FISA court. And Republicans, little shitters they are. All in favor of reauthorizing FISA with no reforms, say aye. Aye. Losers. Wonder why nobody wants to vote for you. It's the worst case scenario. If the worst case scenario comes to pass with the 2026 midterms, as you've been warning, what should be the next move for the MAGA movement? Run for the hills, because they're putting us all in jail. I'm not kidding. I'm not. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's kind of not funny. They already started to flirt with the idea of like penalties for pollsters who don't get in line. Barack Obama, actually, that's why Gallup, this is a little known story people don't know. Gallup doesn't horse race anymore because the Justice Department under Barack Obama was about to prosecute them for having a Romney +1. They'll do it. Seriously, though, Jonathan? Seriously? Regroup, retool, I mean, the fact of the matter is they should immediately argue the affirmative, because what's going to happen. They're going to say this is Trumpism's fault and we should look to nominate Ted Cruz or Ron DeSantis. They're better Republicans. And MAGA should just ignore it and say, yo, you know what? Actually, the president got off track. And had we remained MAGA and passed the MAGA agenda, we wouldn't be in this shit right now. It's because of you people and your buddy Benjamin Netanyahu that we're in this position right now. You just got to go harder. Got to double down. Got to go harder. Maybe you shouldn't have supported Lady Lindsay. He's up there at the stage yesterday, like some Republicans went along with it. Let's review the list, shall we? Some Republicans voted on that stupid bill to let these Afghan refugees in. Mr. President, let's review the roll call. I mean, it's the fact of the matter is, Jonathan, you're going to have to put Trump on the look. At some point, America First has got to start to look beyond Donald Trump. This is pathetic. They even need him to run around the country like this. And frankly, honestly, it's unfair to ask the president to do this, but he's got to do it now because it's his own ass. He could be removed from office this time. It's not 2020 or 2019 anymore. Do you think the traditional liberal... Oh, I already got to that. Yeah, we'll blend into the... And you're welcome, ideas. I mean, at some point, I think traditional liberals would end up in MAGA. If eventually. And probably, honestly, Jonathan, too, it might actually help if there is eventually a new leader to America First. Because some people's hangups are not with the ideas. It's amazing how much we've polled this. It's like, America First is basically the most popular idea ever to be espoused by any politician. It's incredibly almost universal 80-20 kind of thing. Do you think that elected officials should put the needs of their voters and the citizens above the needs of other countries? So basically, every problem that you come across to solve, you seek to address in government, your answer should be guided by the simple principle that U.S. citizens and their interests come before the interest of foreign governments. It's like, who the hell doesn't believe that? You might be surprised there's about 20% who don't. They're anti-American crazy people. And they exist in larger numbers than I care to admit. But it's still the most popular idea. And many people who of course agree with it still just don't like Trump. And I'm not saying that to lend any credibility to some of the media narratives that are like, Trump is like, he's the problem and we do so much better without. That's bullshit. He brings way more to the table than they ever did. His coalition is way bigger than they could ever put together. Ever. But if it was a successful coalition and got a new face, maybe a younger one that's more articulate and speaks more like a traditional liberal, then yeah, I do. Because I don't think they have anywhere to go. Democratic Party is just going to keep getting more and more and more radical. It's insane to me how this just keeps going up. Matter of fact, let's check that again before we stop here. Is it me or is this a really Republican sample? And by the way, look at conservative, 27.7, 28.2. It moved a little bit. This is pathetic. Oh, America First back up to 50. But look at this. What the hell is happening? And then you have these people who are like, I'm a moderate, but I identify as a socialist. Thank you. Well, then you're not a moderate, brah. You are most definitely not a moderate. All right, now we're getting normal levels here, but it's still higher than usual. Socialist, 9%. Democratic socialism, 53.6. This is why I am a big believer in very big samples. Because you cannot do a national poll with 500 or 1,000 people anymore. You just can't. It's not good enough. Not good enough. You need 2 or more. Yeah, and I kind of was insinuating Vance there. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I think Vance is a much more broad appeal. But, I mean, he's going to have to do some real friggin' tap dance here, guys. Because if this thing goes sideways, it could take Vance with him. It could take Vance with it. It could. Actually, I'm at the point now where I just straight fear it's going to. I just don't know how. You can't unattach yourself, you know? I had this procedure. I forgot my wristband. And that shit hurt. Not going to lie. Whew. I was wondering if I was even going to be able to do this show. But yeah, it's 3:41. All right, back into the field with me. I still haven't made that thing for the Christmas poll. I'll do it. All right, so I'll do it. So when I put out the thing, are you serious? What do I look like? Aunt Jemima over here? All right, I got to pack my daughter something to eat. Mr. Mom! Yeah, I'm basically the best father ever, you know? You guys should always think that of yourselves. Should always think that. And strive to be, you know? I like to try to do anything and everything I can for mine. Not spoil them, but, you know, it was I remember it was much better to have a parent available than it was not to. I'll tell you that. All right, I'm going to think moderate should be removed as a choice. There's very little agreement as to what it means besides not conservative or liberal. You know what, Dread Robert? I actually totally agree with you. It's just an industry standard that we only keep in here because of the exit polls in the industry, but and the you know, maintained as an industry standard. But I have long hated these classifications. Long hated them. We don't even know what it means. You know, there are some people who say that they're moderate because they don't want to be viewed as extreme. There are some people who say they're moderate because they don't really even know what they believe. It's just such a stupid ass classification. I agree with it. I agree with you on that. And I've been experimenting for a long time over, you know, different things. We might need eventually to ask, like, you know what? Here's the normal. So we have the standard, and then in a follow-up, like, look more specifically, if you were presented with these choices instead, do one of them fit your bill better? Yeah, that's probably it. Something like that. We've done stuff like that before, but I agree. It's such a stupid classification. All right, I will wrap up the interviews today, start packaging it up tomorrow. We'll have it to go over again on Friday. I mean, you know, I'm going to blast some stuff out anyway. As I see it, I'm going to go, look at this shit. You know, that's how I do it. But yeah, that's the plan. Don't forget, if you like the videos, like them, share them far and wide. Thank you for being patient while I was muted for what, like 8 minutes? Jesus, Rich. What are you going to do? All right, again, good. Trump's back out on the trail. He needs to do that. However, you could tell it's been a bit. All right. And he needs to make sure that that message is on point. On point. The better take is to blame Biden and the Democrats for destroying inflation. Take credit for bringing inflation down. You did. But don't forget to recognize people's economic hardship, which they still have since you... Never mind. I'll leave that out. But you know what I mean. And that there's more work that needs to be done. There's nothing wrong with saying that. And you better start telling the country what the hell is going to happen if Democrats take over. They're not going to fix your health care. They don't give a fuck about that. They just want to put everybody in prison. And that's what's going to happen. And remove everybody from office. And that's what's going to happen. And then there will be no recourse. So put that in your panicking pipe and smoke it. All right, nothing but love for you guys. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Remember, don't give any more to the French foreign couple. All right, they don't need any more of your money. She'll figure out how to pay them. All right, guys, I'll see you soon.